welcome to Homekeepers. So glad to be here with you today. I want you to know how much we appreciate you, just the fact that you watch and you're part of the ministry, but also a lot of your sweet cards and emails, letters, and financial gifts. I don't have the vocabulary really to tell you how much I appreciate it, but please know you're loved. If you saw the program yesterday, you saw my wonderful guest, Heather Dixon. She wrote this book called Renewed. And sometimes people say something that just said, yes, you know, she nailed it. And this is finding hope when you don't like your story. I had a few years that I didn't like my story. I will tell you that is the truth. And it's the truth in her life, and that's why she wrote this wonderful book. And that's why she was such a great guest. I held her over to talk to her a little bit longer. So you're going to see that conversation in just a minute. And I'm going to join Stephanie for caramel apple cupcakes. Good food is good all year long. Actually, it sounds kind of like an autumn recipe and all. But when you see us make it, I think you'll know it's good anytime. So I'll join her for that. But before I do join her, please remember we are viewer supported. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for every dime that comes into this ministry. Because I know the Lord will bless you. I'm a giver, and He blesses me. And I know that He blesses because that's His heart is to give, and He wants us to be like Him. So the information is coming up on your screen. If you want to donate to the program, write to me. Oh, I love getting your mail. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida, 33758. Or if you really don't have time to do that, you can use the number 1-800-229-0059. And we will thank you, and I know God will bless you for it. And I've joined Stephanie over here now. We've had an interesting morning, haven't we?
We have had an interesting morning. Listen. Can I tell your story?
Oh, yeah.
So Arthelene Rippy comes in. She looks adorable.
Just gorgeous.
But as she's walking away, I did notice, like, maybe there was something wrong right here at the elbow of her jacket. And I thought, well, I'll check it out. Well, then she comes in. It looked like she got attacked by a cougar. Like, she put a leather coat on, but I guess it was a little bit older. You know, we keep things.
It was. I've never seen that in my life.
It looked like she flexed her muscles and just ripped the entire.
Shredded.
It was shredded. It was hysterical. And she didn't have another jacket, so she had to
run home.
So that was the beginning.
What else? Far, and then we've had another issue with
okay. So then,
mentioning the caramel.
Yeah. So here's what happens if you leave caramel sitting on the stove too long. Okay, isn't that beautiful? So we're gonna feed this to some animals. I don't know, but yeah. So stay with your caramel. That's my PSA for today.
That would rip out a lot of filling in my teeth.
Yes. Okay, so I have 20 caramels on here, and I have 3 tablespoons of milk. I'm going to make that. You have a carrot cake. Look, this is simple, okay?
Yes.
It's a carrot cake mix.
I threw it away. Don't you love cake mixes?
Yeah, carrot cake mix. She's making it according to the box directions, except she's going to, when she's all done mixing up, she's going to add 2 cups of diced apples, okay? This is going to be delicious.
Just can't get any better than that.
And the recipe calls at the end to put skewers in it because you want it to look like a caramel apple, but we're not going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and move this. Okay, so she put in 3 eggs. It's according to package directions.
Just
3
do it the
eggs,
way the package
3/4 water, and a 1/3 cup of oil.
And you can use either spice or carrot cake mix.
Apple spice or carrot cake, which I'm glad you picked carrot cake because yummy.
I think I was talking to you this morning. I talked to a lot of people.
3 tablespoons of milk.
It would be great to list all of the helpful hints in my lifetime. I remember when the box cakes came out. What an invention.
Yes.
And then more and more and more. We have things that help us along. This is a huge, giant step here to be able to do this much.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yes. But making it from scratch, you can control the sugar and things like that a little bit more. Because the first ingredient on that boxed cake is sugar.
Yeah.
So you know it's the most prevalent.
These are,
so good.
It's a tart apple.
Yes. And I peeled them and cut them this morning, and then I just put a little lemon juice on them so that they wouldn't turn brown.
Oh, well, I wondered why they looked so fresh. And then you just put them in a paper-lined.
Yes, which I
Cupcake.
overfilled my muffin tins
Yes,
this morning,
yes.
and they're big and beautiful and gorgeous.
Yes. The caramel will be the magic, I'm
Yes,
sure. But
so we're going to put caramel on, and then we have toasted pecans
they go on top of that.
that go on top of that. How delicious. You want a special treat after you have somebody
they-
over for dinner?
Are they about $3.50?
$3.50 for about, these took a little bit longer because look how big they are. But it says line 12 jumbo muffin
Whoa,
cup.
you
So
did it.
I did exactly
You
what
did
it
it.
told me to do. So I just took 2 spoons, just so you know, I just took a spoon, and I used that to put it into the muffin. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
like
Yes.
this?
Well, scoop it with one,
Uh-huh. Oh,
and then take it off with the other. Yes. And
and
then use that one to
right.
scoop it out.
And
Yeah.
how full should they be?
Well, I mean, it said 12. This is 12. I did what it said.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Melt. I'm
Uh-oh.
trying not to burn it. I'm just going
Right.
to take some of this that's already
This has
melted.
been quite a day so far.
It's early. We're doing a morning taping, and we don't usually do morning taping. So
yeah,
this,
we're
you
usually
get
not.
what you
Okay,
get.
I want to see that happen.
Yeah, give me, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's just,
Shall we put one on here, or are you just going to?
sure.
But you really do need to watch.
I'm trying not to burn the caramel. We don't want it to happen twice. I'm just trying to get some of the already
Yeah, you have to be
melted.
careful with that.
Don't walk away from your caramel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yum. These will look prettier later.
It'll set for a while.
Let's put this over here so we can do
Mm-hmm.
this. And this.
What a simple thing, to give your kids.
so
Ooh,
good,
give
yeah.
your kids a treat.
And if you put a skewer in it, then it would look like a
It's
caramel
supposed-
apple.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, do you want to try it?
We have skewers, but I think they're not quite big enough to hold this up.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you would use it like.
I don't
to
either.
eat
I
it
think
like
it's
that.
Oh my. There is a heaven. I can't tell you how.
That is a 10.
What a treat.
Oh my.
And they're messy. All right. If you enjoyed Heather yesterday, you're going to enjoy her today. So stay right there and listen to what she has to say. It's very good.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, you may receive it by contacting us through social media as listed on the screen. When requesting a copy through the mail, be sure to include a self-addressed stamped envelope. Thank you, and please know we always appreciate hearing from our viewers.
Well, if you saw the program yesterday, you know where we are right now. But and as I mentioned earlier, I asked Heather to stay because it's just such a great topic and it touches so many areas of people's lives. So I asked her to stay, and thank you for staying.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to be
Got
here.
a double header here.
Yeah.
Let's sum up just a little bit where we quit yesterday. The comparison between your life and Naomi's really is outstanding as far as the emotional cost and all that. It's not exactly the same circumstances. But you have an autoimmune disease. Naomi had a lot of tragedy in her life, losing her sons and husband and all. And so you put this together in a Bible study. But for the viewers that are just tuning in today, tell them a little bit about your own story.
Yeah.
And the negative thing you live with. You live with it 24 hours a day.
Yes, I'm the survivor of a genetic connective tissue disorder. It's called vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It makes my blood vessels, arteries, and organs prone to spontaneous rupture, which means that they're just very fragile. And so I've experienced a lot of major medical events associated with my condition. For example, I've had a miscarriage. My only son was born prematurely because my membranes ruptured. My colon has ruptured. I've lost about 10% of my kidney because I've had an aneurysm rupture, and then my carotid artery ruptured in 2015. And so, my doctors put all the pieces together to realize that I had this genetic disorder, which I didn't know before, and I'd inherited it from my mother, who passed away from this disease in 1988. So
She probably never knew she had it.
Oh no, absolutely not. She was 37. It was just very sudden for her. And so 5 years ago, I had to figure out, like, how do I live with this story that I don't like? And Ruth is my favorite book of the Bible, and I've always resonated so much more with Naomi. Ruth is beautiful and perfect, and I don't see myself in her.
You see yourself in Naomi?
I do. Naomi is the one that says my life is bitter. She's the one that has suffered such tragedy, and Ruth suffers tragedy too. She loses her husband, and I don't want to dismiss that value of it, but Ruth is Naomi's story. And so, I really wanted to write a Bible study. I wanted to provide, the gals in my ministry and my women readers, a chance to explore their hard stories alongside God's word, because there's hope there in Naomi's story. It begins with tragedy, but it doesn't end there.
And the name of her book is Renewed, and it's a beautiful book. I think it's definitely a female book.
Oh,
it's just the way it's laid out.
It's beautiful. It's
Get your
aesthetically
pencil out
beautiful.
because it's going to force you to think, and you're going to write a few things down. On the last program that we did, we had kind of really summarized Naomi. When you were talking a while ago, I thought, I bet she's been criticized in sermons just about as much as anybody in the Bible.
Yes.
She's horrible. She's a whiner.
She is, and I will be honest with you. In doing my study and reading biblical commentaries and scholars and things, there was one in particular who I will not name on this show, but I threw his book across the room because
Will you tell me when we're through?
I will. I will. But I just thought that's such a human, cultural bias against women, and there's nothing in the scripture that says she did this because of this. And so anyway, I thought if we started looking at Naomi the way God does, with grace and mercy and compassion and love, and the way He starts working in her story to redeem it and make it better, maybe, just maybe, we might find the truth that He'll do the same thing for us.
You've helped me a lot, and I've been in the Bible all my life.
No.
And that's what's so beautiful about the Word of God. There's always something new. But just to recap, if preachers want to call Naomi a whiner and negative and all this, okay, remember, her husband died, both of her sons died, and I have a big question mark, and when we get to heaven, I'll ask her, did you really want to move from Bethlehem? Because you don't uproot women real easily.
Right. Was that Elimelech's choice or was it your choice? We know the answer, but we're going to ask her just to confirm.
So she's had those things against her. Okay, now let's move ahead. That's where we were on the last program.
Great.
Her daughters-in-law, both of them, obviously held her in very high regard. Oprah chose to stay in Moab. That was one of them. Ruth is the one who's said beautiful words, and even in a song, I've sung it for weddings, whither thou goest, I will go. And it's a very moving, and then when you think of it's a daughter-in-law saying that to a mother-in-law, it's inexplainable.
Yeah, there's a beautiful friendship there. And one of the things that encourages me to do when I read that is to think about the Ruths in my life. If I resonate with Naomi, then what that teaches me is to say, look where God has placed a Ruth in my life. And gosh, I have so many Ruths. So many Ruths. I say this all the time, especially because when you lose your mother, when you lose a parent at a young age, it teaches you to look for that motherly figure in other places. And I have more mothers than I can count because God has just placed, these women who have been willing to raise me up in these different seasons of my life, and so I think, when we are walking through hard stories, one of the first things we can do is say, okay, God, where are my Ruths? Where are the women that are going to stick with me? Because they're there.
So Naomi and Ruth went back to Bethlehem, which was Naomi's hometown, and I'm sorry, I could just see those women looking at Naomi and say, what happened to her? And she told them.
Well, they kind of, you know, I think there's such humor in the Bible if you're willing just to release yourself.
That's a real woman thing right there.
Yeah, it is. And there is. She comes back, and there's, you know, the first chapter of Ruth. Even there's like the women, and they whisper, and they're like, "Is that Naomi? Is that really her?"
Can't be.
I know. Where's she been, and what's happened to her, and why is she in that drab dress?
And we've all done that,
right?
We've all got in a little. What happened to her? she really let herself go. And that's what it was.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And that's when she was
she faced it head on.
Yeah, she was honest and says, yep, you're right. I did let myself go because my life has been very hard.
Very hard. And she gave herself another name, didn't she?
She did. She named herself Mara. It's funny, her name Naomi means pleasant, and she changed it to Mara, which means bitter, because she said that God had made her life very bitter.
Right on. Right on. Okay, now what about her relationship with Ruth then? Because she became the guiding factor for that kind of a beginning lineage straight to Jesus Christ.
That's right. So, okay, so the short story in that is that by the end, you know, Ruth and Naomi come to Bethlehem, and then they get there and they decide, oh, we need food. And so Naomi is the one that's taking action. And this is one of the things I love, and I think is so helpful to remember for those of us who may feel paralyzed, you know, in a hard story. For me, that was, you know, when I feel like I'm helpless is when I really start to sink. And so, you know, God is always in control, but he did give us free will. And so, you know, I think when we can have the courage to take baby steps of action, it makes us feel like, number one, we're not, you know, helpless, we're not victims, we're not paralyzed, and we are working with God to come out of this. And that's what Naomi does. So she moves to help Ruth find, you know, Boaz's field where she can pick some grain. And then it was Naomi's idea to tell Ruth, okay, now we need to find you a husband. Here's what I want you to do.
And let's pick a rich one.
Yes, let's pick a good one and a rich one, and he needs to provide for all of us. And she has no idea how this is going to turn out. She has no idea if God's going to, you know, going to affirm this plan and move forward with it, but she does it anyway. And I think, you know, when we're willing to take action, you know, and just say, I'm going to take this leap of faith, however baby or big it is, you know, and trust that God's going to come with that, then, you know, we can find courage. It gives us, you know, okay, we can get ourselves out of this hole. And so she, you know, helps Ruth find a husband in Boaz. Boaz agrees to marry her. And as it turns out, Ruth and Boaz have a child who ends up becoming an ancestor of David, who is, of course, an ancestor of Jesus. And such a beautiful, beautiful story. And Naomi gets to help raise him and love for him and care for him. And it's just such a wonderful way that God redeems her story with happiness.
We can't know exactly how heaven works.
Nope.
I've often said, if we have lunch there, women love to lunch, these are the ones I want to. And I have a feeling that Naomi, maybe she got past some of her grief.
Yeah.
And she thought, hey,
Yeah.
hey, women are savvy. Come on. Hey, this could be a good thing.
Yeah.
This could be.
Yeah.
And like any good mother-in-law and all, they're going to do their best to guide that daughter in the right direction.
Yeah, well, and you can see in the words that she uses in the scripture, her motivation is love for Ruth. You know, it's care for Ruth. It's not, I need someone to take care of me. It is, okay, Ruth has chosen to stick with me, and you can tell by the language she uses. You know, she says, okay, Ruth, we need to, you know, find this for you. And it's an answer to her prayer. In the first chapter of Ruth, she says, you know, may God bless you and care for you in the same way that you've done for me. And so, you know, she ends up doing exactly that for Ruth and taking that action for her. So, you know, I mean, does that grief leave? Does it stay with her? For sure it stays with her. We never forget the losses and the things that we have. But I think God gives us the courage to take a step forward, which is huge coming out of these hard stories. And that's exactly what Naomi does. So,
I think that you have, through your teaching in this book, and by the way, she is a Bible teacher and a conference speaker. We've had the information for her on the screen. You can get the book. It's called Renewed. Through that, you can get it through Amazon. I highly, highly recommend it. And also, probably any place you're speaking. And as we speak, COVID is still rampant, and traveling is cut way back. But you might want to remember this, because I think you would want to hear her if she ever comes, into your area.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Absolutely, and I have found that women have hungry hearts.
Oh yeah, especially now. We all miss that connection, the community. We miss, seeing whether, if you and I had met before this and I didn't know your story and we met in a women's event, I'd still look you in the eye and we would know we've been in similar places, and I would, in my heart, I'd say, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. That's what those women's events do. And we hunger for that now, more so than ever.
Every once in a while, and no matter how old you get, you'll still appreciate it, because I've got 9 great-grandchildren, so I'm old, okay? But every once in a while, somebody comes along, even when you're that old, and they say something that makes it come alive again, and this is what I like, finding hope when you don't like your story.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yes, I've hated my story from time to time.
Yeah, and we all do. I'm not naive enough to think that there's a subset of women who live hard stories. We all have a piece of our story that is difficult because we live in a broken world. None of us are getting out of this without some loss or setback or death of a dream, or, we just... It's the reality of living in a broken world. But I think that, learning to walk that story with Jesus is where the blessing is, because it can be so sweet. And, we have to figure out, how to walk through it. I think if you ever drive through, I'm from North Carolina, if you ever drive from North Carolina up to DC, which we do fairly often, there's a road there. You can go, you can go straight through, or you can go around. I think it's near Richmond. Like, in a sign, it's like, go straight through, and there's like traffic and hard stuff, and everybody wants to go around. Everybody wants to miss this piece of it, right? But I think, what Naomi's story reminds us is that we can go straight through. There is no around this hard story. We can't skip it. We can't, tap dance around it. We have to be willing just to go through the hard stuff. But Jesus is there with you, and it's not as bad as you turned out. And you know what? For your record for surviving hard things, you're 100%. We are 100%. We are still here, and we are okay. And that's good news with Jesus.
As we mentioned on this program earlier and on the program yesterday, that she has an autoimmune disease that there's no cure for, and it's a tendency to rupture sometimes and cause great problems, and it's very, very serious. Was there a moment after that, because you went through really a dark time?
Sure did.
That would be true of anyone. Was there a moment when it's like the sun came out?
I think that the moment happened. There were particularly 3 months that were very dark, and I'll be honest with you, I really suffered with anxiety and still do. And during those 3 months, I had to set an alarm on my phone for every 60 minutes, because that was as long as I would last before I had another panic attack. And so that alarm would go off, and I'd hit my knees, and I'd pray, and I'd read scripture, and then I'd get up, and I'd work another hour or do another hour, and then hit my knees. And every hour, that is how I survived that dark season. And to think about when I kind of came out of that, when the sun started shining, was when God put me to work. When God gave me purpose. And
that's huge.
Yeah, because I started the website that I have now. I started it by writing a miscarriage post to a friend that we were not close enough so I could say, let me hold your hand through this. But I just thought, so many women go through this and we never talk about it. And so I'll never forget my grandma, who gave me this Bible that I'm holding right now. She gave it to me when I was 11, when my mom died. And she looked at me and she said, well, old girl, because there was a lot of stuff I could not do anymore. And she said, well, old girl, at least you can still write. You better get to it.
Your grandmother said that?
Yep, Grandma Letha. And I said,
we got a lot of grandmothers watching this program.
She is the reason why I love Jesus. And her handwriting is here in the front of this Bible presented to Heather Noel Marshall from Grandma Letha and Papa Leon. I was 11 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. She is the reason why I teach the Bible and love Jesus today.
Well, when I met Heather, before the program yesterday. I've never done this before to a guest, but I met her and I stood back and looked at her and I just burst out saying, "You're so happy." And to me, that was the sign of an overcomer. There was nothing about it that was put on, and I'm glad to put you on in front of all my wonderful viewers.
Thank you so much, Arthelene.
We got a lot of wonderful guys who watch, and we love you gentlemen for sure. But it's mostly ladies, and we have so much in common.
Yeah.
And I think that you've put the spotlight on it, that you can overcome anything because Jesus is absolutely who he said he is.
That's right.
That's for sure. We are out of time. I want you to stay with me. I'll be back in just a second, and I want to be sure and tell Heather anytime you're coming through, let me know.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Stay there. I'll be right back.
Arthelene would like you to keep the following information handy. You may contact Homekeepers by writing to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, or go to www.rippy.org. Remember, we always enjoy hearing from our viewers, and we thank you for your support.
Okay, at the top of the program, I reminded you, and I will do so again right now, we are viewer supported. And if the Lord's dealing with you to help this ministry, the address is on the screen as well as the 800 number, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, and also that 800 number for credit cards and debit cards, 1-800-229-0059. And thank you so very much. I think you can tell now why I asked Heather if she could stay over. I think she speaks for a lot of us. Remind you, her book is called Renewed, and you might want to get it. It's on Amazon and so forth. But I think her case is so very, very serious, and you can see how you can just have a fountain of joy in your life, even though there's something very serious going on. I think that's true of the human condition. And I think Gloria Gaither nailed it when she said, if there were ever dreams that were lofty and noble, they were my dreams at the start. And the hope for life's best were the hopes that I harbored down deep in my heart. But my dreams turned to ashes. My castles all crumbled. My fortune turned to loss. So I wrapped it all in the rags of my life and laid it at the cross. And he gave me something beautiful and something good. That's the kind of God we understand. Just give it to him and let him renew you. And please remember, we have people right now that are standing by. Be glad to pray with you and kind of share that burden of your life. It helps when 2 or 3 get together and they agree on something. That's very scriptural. Well, friends, hope you'll join me next time. And please always remember, there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.